Good afternoon, Nerd Fam, and welcome back to fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here kicking off the year right at CES 2026. My name's Savannah Peterson. So stoked to be geeking out with Rob Strechay all week. Rob, I'm so glad we got to walk the show floor a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, taking in what the differences are from last year to this year and starting to get a feel for how things are really proliferating through and how AI is really starting to touch a whole lot of different things.
Yeah, I think we're starting to really see the craving both from the market as well as the evolution from companies, from POC to actually getting a little bit of scale. Very excited to have our next two guests to talk to us about that precisely. Hung and Dan, thank you so much for coming to chill out today.
Thank you.
It's a busy week for y'all, I know. Hung, we were just talking about it a second ago, so I'm going to open us up there. How do you think the conversation at CES has changed about AI since even just last year?
Yeah, you know, it's been fascinating to see the progress that's been made over, 12 months in terms of the advancements in not just the software elements of AI, but the physical elements. And as predicted, you know, we're seeing a lot of the physical, AI-enabled humanoids, robots, and things of that nature. And it's great to see, historically or last year we saw chatbots more around the agenda and driving software. And this year, it really is coming to life. And as I shared earlier, it feels like it's more of the showing and doing as opposed to just demonstrating or being illustrative, right? And so it's really coming to life in an everyday world.
Yeah, we're out of the put an AI on it phase.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. And I think you just hit on something. It was like last year, it felt much more like a bolt-on versus really being part of that. How do you see things really moving forward from here in that way, the bolt-on versus, intentional AI?
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's the consumer aspect and then there's the enterprise aspect. And I'll start with the enterprise aspect first, because we spend a lot of time working with our clients in this. There's been, as you can imagine, there was a lot of fascination of thinking about different ways to use this technology to be able to solve problems that we have today. So a lot of our clients were starting their exercise by identifying what are all the ways that I can use this technology to be able to solve problems for me. And that manifested itself in this definition of a use case, and they would get hundreds of different use cases. And when you start to string those together, you're actually doing the work the exact same way. You're just bolting AI into a bunch of different steps and then hoping that you get some big, significant return on investment from that. I would say over the last 6 months, we're seeing a pretty dramatic pivot away from that idea that we can just add AI to the way that we do our work today, and instead we need to really drop the 56 steps that we did in the past of how we did this work and start with a clean sheet of paper, because AI fundamentally changes that operating system. And that idea of rewriting the new way of working is a big trend that we're starting to see in enterprises, where they're looking to figure out how they create the AI native, AI built-in way of operating their business.
And I think a piece of that is it's almost human nature, or you almost have to be anti-human nature of getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah. We're all creatures of habit. And the way we do steps 1 through 56 is the way that we've been doing steps 1 through 56. And I think being more AI native, you have to get out of that. It's no longer steps 1 through 10. It could be steps 1 through 5 plus this and that. And so getting out of your comfort zone to reimagine how things need to happen, I think is really what AI and agentic AI is about.
And the real irony in that is that sometimes the people with the deepest expertise of how we do the work today are the hardest to get out of that way of working. So in a lot of ways, when you want to start to go create something new, you need to bring people that are not your deepest experts in the way that operates. Otherwise, you can start to really get latched into the old way.
I think that's really true. I think that's actually why young people are in a unique position right now.
Yeah.
Because they aren't jaded by the way things were done before, or that's how we always did it. So you've got this ability to see past the walls that we are trying to pretend to tear down, or not, metaphorically tearing down. So I mean, I'm going to stay here on the culture piece for a second. You guys get to work with a lot of different teams and different types of people. How do you two-part question here. How do you break down that this is how we've always done it kind of old way? Like, we're all guilty of that sometimes. We all go to the same restaurant more than we should, etc. And then how do you also bring people along on the journey so that they don't feel like they're getting replaced by this technology, but that they're going to actually be able to build with it and have a growth mindset? Hung, I'll start with you.
Yeah, and I think the bad reputation of Gen AI and large language models over the last year has been exactly that. It's taking over my job. And obviously when you think about job security, people are going to be resistant. And to me, the biggest hurdle right now is the human element. It is the change management, it is the adoption piece to that. And so we have to show a way, to your point, how do we bring them to the journey to say, you're not going to be out of a job, but you might have a different job, right? And you've always heard Jensen Huang always say, AI is not going to replace you, but AI may replace you if you're not using AI, right? And so I think that is really a sentiment of what we have to do around change management. And I allude to some examples when we talk about this around third-party risk management. And third-party risk management, Rob and Savannah, is where our clients are looking at vendors, suppliers, different partners to assess risk.
Yeah.
Are they financially stable for us to do business? Is there geopolitical risk where they may not exist because of X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
Are there reputational risks? Are these people that we want to do business with? And historically, you would have one or two data sets. You have maybe some internal data sets and external data sets to form an opinion and do due diligence. Now with AI, not only can you do it faster, but you're going to have a much more robust, enriched set of data that you never thought of and be able to bring these things together. Historically, you'd only do one or two data points or maybe 3 or 4 data points. And now with AI, you can do tens, hundreds, if not thousands. However, there's always going to be exceptions then. Someone's got to look at the exceptions. We talk about hallucinations, false positives, and however you want to call it. There are things that you have to look and say, is this what it really is at face value? And the human element's got to look and intervene to say yes or no. And so there's always going to be a different twist to the job at hand. And I know you talk about toils and things of that nature, but that to me is like a different element of the job.
Yeah, and I would say, like, what is a job anyway? A job is, a job is something that we've made up in a lot of organizations, and that is somebody that is responsible for executing a wide set of tasks in the normal course of their business. Not one task, almost never just one task. And what AI is doing right now is automating a couple of these tasks. And for the person that has, let's say I'm responsible for running accounts payable inside an organization, I may have a collection of 40 things that I'm responsible for doing. Well, if the dialogue becomes, okay, how many of those things can AI do? I get on guard. At that point, like, now I'm starting to get defensive that, like, you are paper cut by paper cut starting to cut me out of some of those tasks that really form the composition of my job. So Savannah, to get to the idea of, like, how do we get our clients to move from this bolt-on to this built-in, we've created something inside of our organization that we call a value blueprint. That is essentially, instead of getting into the board and mapping out all those processes and bringing yellow Post-it notes and red Post-it notes and, like, we don't want to do that anymore, this is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Now we just sketch out, what does the future operating look like inside the organization? And that is a combination of new jobs that people have and execute, and then where the AI plays a role. These agents start to play the role. So what we're finding as we're engaging in that way with our clients is that their workforce doesn't feel like they're being, cut away from paper cuts. Now they see, oh, okay, in this new way of working, I'm actually going to play this role of working with these agents. This is my new job. There's an effort to figure out how to train people to be able to occupy that job, but then people feel empowered that they see where their role is in the future, and it's not just something that is slowly withering and eroding away.
And in that context, I think everyone's got to be comfortable about managing agents now. It's no longer about managing people and humans. You have to be in a world where you have the digital employee and the human employee working together, and whether you're a person out of school or a 30-year veteran, you're going to have to be able to work with both of those kinds of employees.
Yeah. I think that hits on a really nice thing from the perspective of, bolt-on versus built-in and getting to the built-in, but there's also the factor of getting from experimentation to scale. What are you seeing, here at CES and with your customers that is kind of showing you that they're on that path of getting from, or how are they getting from experimentation to actual scale?
Yeah, when we see the the massive, like this is a big innovation of technology, but it's an even bigger change of business innovation because companies need to go through this transformation in terms of how they operate their business and in many cases about how they make money. You know, their business models are starting to evolve as well. And in order to do that, fundamentally you need to be able to address the transformation in 3 ways. You need to have the right mindset inside your leaders and inside your workforce to be able to attack problems the right way. You need to have the right skill set for the employees to start working with these wide variety of tools, and you need to have the right tools in place, the right tool set. And what we saw for the last couple of years is most of the financial investments at our clients have been going towards the tools. You know, like I can go to most of my clients and ask them, what is the first word you think of when I say AI? And they named me a different tool. If it's ChatGPT or if it's Copilot, they name the tool. So what I'm starting to see when companies are starting to move to scale, it's not just about technology scale. It's about investing in the people to develop the right mindset scale and starting to build the right skills and ways of working so people bring context to working with AI as opposed to just using it as the world's most expensive search engine.
Oh, love that you just said that too. Sorry, I'm way beyond browser-based AI. I just need to just amen to that real quick. Yeah, I saw you wanted to add something.
And I think the other element to this, Dan, as we talked about, is productivity and efficiencies only get you so far, right? You can only have AI intervene into processes and things of that nature. And the ceiling, or above the ceiling, is when you start thinking about monetization, revenue generating, adjacencies that you never thought of. All of our clients collect a ton of data, whether it's to better improve their product sets, better to do operations and things of that nature. But now as they're starting to use AI and put an ecosystem, an orchestration layer on that data set, they're beginning to find out, hey, I might be able to do something differently that I didn't even envision. One of our clients that we work with, consumer electronics company, coincidentally, they have siloed businesses. Those siloed businesses do not talk to each other. And so their ability to not just cross-sell and upsell, but to be able to own the entire digital home from that perspective is important if they have, can only be realized if they share the data that they collect from product to product, but also consumer behavior from one element to another, right? We talked about CX a little while ago. Right. And it's really at the end of the day about how do you create a seamless experience for the consumer. And you can only do that if you bring these silo businesses together.
Yeah. Absolutely. You just brought up a really good point there. And when I think about what AI can potentially do, if you think of the way we've done business before as having an X and Y axis, I feel like AI gives us the Z axis. You're able to look at data from just a completely different tilt of the organization, of the org, and with different eyes from different teams to potentially discover different solutions. Dan, I love what you just said a second ago, and I want to ask you all the question you ask everybody else. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word AI?
Oh, I'm so guilty.
It's happening.
I'm so guilty.
And you're all going to answer it, so
I'm
get ready
so
for
guilty.
it.
I would have said ChatGPT as well. I'm so guilty. Yeah.
Okay, so you would have said ChatGPT. What about you, Hung?
Well, the irony of all of this, though, is AI's been around for a while, right?
Oh, it has been.
Then now you put Gen AI, generative AI in front of it, and ChatGPT being the first one out the gate, everyone thinks of ChatGPT, right? But I don't know.
Do you? What comes to mind when I say AI?
No, Savannah, you.
Regulation.
Regulation.
We are at a critical juncture for the survival of our planet, not from a dramatic doomsday Terminator standpoint, from a mental health perspective.
Yes.
Where if we do not put bumpers on the bowling lane, we are going to do exactly what we did with social media, which is damage a lot of beautiful brains. And I am very concerned right now.
And you've already seen it in the press.
It's already happening. And it's already breaking my heart. And we all love enterprise equally here. I'm not hating on the enterprises, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the companies that step out and get in front of that and are really working towards creating environments for everyone to unlock all this creativity that are safe.
So I really like the angle that you're taking there, Savannah. And if I had the opportunity to think for a little bit longer, I would come up with something better than when I was guilty. No, it's okay.
No judgment zone.
But I think on top of that, right now we are at a point where a ton of money has been spent in AI over the last couple of years. I mean, there's a depreciation wall that people are looking at and starting to question: is this a bubble? Are we going to be able to create enough value to be able to to get over some of the expenses that are coming down the road? And for that reason, I think it's reasonable for shareholders to start to look for signs that the company is evolving and is progressing with AI. And the easiest sign to look for is where is the benefit that you're getting, productivity, and that ultimately manifests itself into this conversation of, can we do today with AI what we used to do yesterday with people? And I think that is a really unfortunate thing that is happening right now.
Agree with you.
Because what we see is that AI is really good at like doing something well the first time and feeling good about it, but it's essentially commoditizing what the output is. Like it raises the floor for everything, but it doesn't raise the ceiling on anything. It raises the floor to the exact same space. So for companies to really differentiate, it's going to be people that are shaping that point of differentiation, people that bring their deep domain expertise, their critical thinking, their creativity to be able to work together with AI to create something novel and new. That's where the real economic value is going to come from. That's where the real differentiation is going to come from. And that makes me really excited about the future. But we are caught in this early stage of a transformation where people are looking for evidence of progress. And unfortunately, the easiest one to look at is the money that comes in the income statement.
It's funny you went down that path because to me, and I was saying that before I did business process
You got it, Rob, I believe in
transformation
you.
earlier on in my life in the oil and gas industry. And it was PowerPoints and Excels, and I know there's still a lot of that still in industry, but it's, things are taking you from the beginning to a little bit further down the line using things like AI. To me, when I think of AI, I think of business and digital transformation and real digital transformation versus what we've been talking about for the last 10 years. Where do you see that with your customers and how they look at, because you brought it up around, hey, the process re-engineering aspect of it and starting with a fresh piece of paper. How do you see organizations really embracing that to kind of redo not just what the tech is, because like you said, I think there's been a ton of tech bought already that needs to see value, but it's also the process part of that. And where do you guys come in on that?
No, and to Dan's point, I mean, the technology is there, right? It's been around for a long time, and now it's more mainstream. And we talked a little bit about the change management element as the resistance piece. But to your point, Rob, our clients, and Dan talked about our value blueprints, right? As a starting point around how do you reimagine not just business functions, but business models. And I think that level of abstraction is very hard for some of our clients to think about. Because again, we're creatures of habit, so steps 1 through 10. No longer do you need to talk about steps 1 through 10. What is the outcome that you're looking to achieve, and how can this new technology help you achieve that? And we start to look at some of the value blueprints that we've developed across all of our sectors. We know what the answer is, then we need to get our clients and the executive suites and the people on that journey to say, yes, this is how and what we need to get to, leveraging the technology at hand. And that's the journey in part of how does every person in the organization fit into that transformation.
And feel included.
Yes.
Feel part of it.
Yeah.
I see, Rob, to your question, like I kind of look at the last 2 decades and what we've really focused on from a technology perspective, again, in the enterprise, not in the consumer space, has been standardization around a common set of platforms, right? Like the idea was coding and building software was far too expensive, so we're just gonna leverage a piece of software and conform our business to this piece of software. And what you ended up having is most of the capital going to the core of the business and the core starting to sprawl out because we wanted to be onto a standard because it was way too expensive to go do all the customization and code. Now, with AI systems, the cost of developing code is like down to the floor. It is very, very cheap. And the questions are, should we start to create and address that part of the business, which has always been kind of left to the side? Like I have many clients that have these really incredible backbones and ERP systems, but when you engage with their customers, they're still doing things in Excel spreadsheets and on notes, and like they've neglected the system of interaction while they've focused on the system of record. So I think AI will start to really challenge that paradigm. Like where now we can start to develop this sorts of systems that are required to be able to maintain better relationships with our suppliers, with our customers, with our end consumers. And it will just be a question now of, what should we build? Because it is no longer prohibitively expensive to go into that space.
I think that the other piece to this, and we don't talk enough about the data.
Right.
The infrastructure and the pipeline. Because in order for these algorithms to work, you need data, right? And our clients have collected a ton of data over the years. They don't quite know what to do with all of that. But even just the critical core systems around finance or supply chain or procurement or HR, there's so much data that needs to get normalized and consistent.
Yeah.
That if they don't focus on some of the data issues at hand, all the promises of what we're talking about in transformation and end state is still never going to get realized, right? And so, to me, some of our clients really need to think about how do they shore up the data infrastructure in order for them to realize that value.
Yeah, no, it's complex. What's been, you get to see so many different verticals and types of company. What's been the biggest surprise you've seen or you've experienced? Dan, I'll start with you this time since I keep putting tongue on the spot.
Okay, all right. Biggest surprise. So our clients pay us not to be surprised. So I'll start with that. I would say the thing
So you've never been surprised?
Never been surprised, Savannah, never. I would start with, what consistently kind of shocks me a bit. We're like 3 years into AI being on the front page of everything, and it's still sometimes surprising the difference in knowledge of expertise of what AI really means between the board and the senior leaders and the people that are responsible for doing it on the ground. Like, everybody uses AI on a day-to-day basis in their personal lives, and they come into work and they want to be able to access those same tools, and many times the rules that have been put in place that you can't actually access it. And there are really savvy people that you find all across the organization, and there's still a lack of appreciation of some of the complexity to be able to unlock that value that exists at the senior levels of the organization. So that gulf that exists is something that still surprises me, and it has actually shaped a lot of the way that we engage with senior leaders now, because instead of showing up with PowerPoints, now we show up with computers that are pre-programmed with certain pieces of software, and we're like, guess what? Today you all get to be builders. Put your hands on the keyboard and we're gonna go through an exercise so you can start to see what it feels like to create. And the feedback, I kind of thought that would be really good in 2024, but it still works. We did a session a couple of weeks ago and it still had the same magic. So I think more leaders need to put their hands on the keyboard inside of organizations, and that will start to get through that gap.
I think that's how we mellow out some of the stigma and skepticism as well. Too.
Yes.
It's once you
Once
seeing
you
is
experience
believing.
it.
Yeah. It changes everything. What about you, Hung? What's been your biggest surprise?
I like to joke, or we like to joke, pound what he said.
Finally, I got to go first this time.
I love how you said pound instead of hashtag. Moving into a new, yeah.
It's the old me.
I
It's the old me.
I kind of cherish that you did that.
You know,
That was great.
when you look at the previous technology waves, right? A lot of the technologies that's been there has really been to what I would say augment, supplement, and complement the human. And AI now is possibly, to our earlier point, replacing the human or giving new opportunities for humans to do different things. And what surprises me is where some of our people, even internally, as well as our clients, have not embraced that. And it goes back to the bolt-on versus native. I feel like our clients and our people in general are still looking at AI as a bolt-on to whatever tasks, whatever business process transformation. And they can't get out of that mindset of having to reimagine what the future could be, what the end state could be. And even your day-to-day tasks, and I'm just as guilty. It took me even though ChatGPT's been around for 3 years, it took me probably a year and a half to it's another tool, right? And it wasn't until I started to use it effectively and the way it was meant to be used, it was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff that I can do here on my own as opposed to relying on person A, person B, and the insights that I can get from doing this is just unbelievable. And so that the time, the productivity levels, the insights that I have now is just very different. And it's hard for me to believe that not everybody is embracing the technology in that way.
I think where you hit on that and the fact that people, again, don't want the 1,000 paper cuts of their job, but they have things that they could be doing. They, instead of managing a district for an auto dealer or something like that, they could be doing the Northeast if they had something that could help them through their day. So they could upskill themselves and have a bigger role and helping lead people in that direction. But one of the things is that may be an agent that's, or as I say, a buddy an AI buddy that's helping them through their day to help them scale. What are you seeing with organizations as they start to come out with these agents and AI buddies to help people not slice up their job into 1,000 little pieces, but help them scale into and reskill and gain new skill sets? And are they getting to the point where they're trying to chain these agents together so that it becomes more of a, hey, we're going to build this one, then we're going to build the next one, keep them, coordinating? Or is that really still
No, I mean,
out?
I think as Hung said it earlier, we hire an incredible number of people inside of EY. A lot of people that are coming out of university every year, and we went through this change where we're starting to believe that next year's group, they need to be managers on day one, because they're going to be managing a workforce of AI agents that are powerful, sometimes clumsy, don't get everything right, and can be chained together. So I think it's kind of elevating that experience to teaching people those appropriate delegation skills and having them start to think about the work in bite-sized chunks so they can start to be the manager over this workforce that is now being able to do the work in a much different way. And we are seeing situations where I wouldn't say it's like fully autonomous agents that are strung together, but there is an agent that is specialized in this particular task that then transitions information over to this agent that is specialized in this task, and those things are kind of working complementary. And there's one other bit, Savannah, I wanted to go back to the question that you asked earlier, what surprises me. There's one other thing that surprises me, and it's that organizations are so fascinated by the large language model and the model inside their organization, the thing they actually control the least.
Right.
And instead of building around the large language model, the organizational expertise to be able to get the most out of it. So there's a little bit of like a model trap that's happening of like, do we have the right model garden in place and the right set of models that can power these agents, as opposed to, do I have the right knowledge ecosystem around these agents to be able to do the work the way that I as an organization want them to do?
I think that's a really good point. I think there is a little infatuation to a degree with LLMs. And the reality is small language models are going to be one of the larger ways that most of the world actually gains value from this whole technological moment. So, we're kind of like clunky teenagers right now trying to figure out how to pull ourselves together a little bit as an industry. I say that lovingly, but it's interesting. So what is, for the wonderful senior leaders listening right now, what is the most important first step? I know we mentioned mindset and really having to think differently, but beyond that, what's the most important first step when you're going from a bolt-on mindset to an actual AI native and optimized mindset?
I mean, we touched on it many times through this conversation, Savannah. I think it's really bringing your whole workforce on the journey. They need to understand what is end state, how do they fit in, and what are the steps to get there. And I think many times, that's the biggest lesson learned, not even just in this sort of technology transformation, but even previous technology waves.
Yeah.
You need, as leaders, you need to paint the vision of where, why, and how, and bring the workforce and your people on that journey to show what the outcomes are going to be. The other thing, Dan, and we've talked about this, is just maybe as an aside, I think with AI and with Gen AI and all this new technology, some of the folks in the universities are always talking about, wow, am I going to get another job? Can I get a job? Computer science major was the best thing that my parents told me. Now, I'm being replaced. One of the things that we talk about in our workforce, because we hire so many people from the universities, right? Yes, your technical expertise is going to be important, but it needs to be balanced with the humanities, right? And one of our mottos in the firm is, the better the question, the better the answer. And if you know how to frame those questions, you know how to be a knowledge worker, right? And have that technical or STEM expertise to augment, I think that profile is going to be so more powerful, right? And to be able to balance the technical and the humanities and the liberal arts, if you will. And that goes for, like I said earlier, not just people who are right out of school, but for 30-year veterans that can retrain themselves in this new world of AI.
You just made me feel great about my liberal arts degree.
As he said, pound side what Hung said. But I would add one more thing. I would say that communication in this space is really important to the workforce. And there's a shift in the way that we ask the question that I think is a very simple thing to do that puts you on a different track. Instead of asking what AI can do, what you do today, start to ask the workforce what they can do now that they have AI. And if you just flip that orientation of a growth mindset versus a reductionist mindset around productivity, that allows and gives the organization permission to start to explore testing the boundaries of what was possible. And those are the little shifts of giving the organization permission to go try to tackle something new that I think make a big difference in being able to harness the human capital that exists across the company.
I think that's a really good point. Or rather than even asking what's possible now that we have AI, what could we do if we could do anything?
Yeah, what used to be impossible.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, and just dropping all of those design constraints to a degree because, I mean, shoot, if it's not there yet, the rate of innovation right now, it could be ready for that type of solution tomorrow, for all we know. Hung and Dan, I could talk to you all day. This has been really fantastic. Thank you both for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Rob. Always a joy.
Always a joy.
Always a joy. And thank all of you for tuning in to our exclusive coverage here at CES 2026 in Las Vegas, Nevada. My name is Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.